Hello and welcome to Cash Chats, the podcast from becleverwithyourcash.com that helps you make the most of your money. I'm Andy Webb.
And I'm Amelia Murray. Some of the stories we're looking in at your money this week are football fans, how much it could cost you to get to the Euro final, Labour's victory and what it means for your money, and how saving small amounts regularly can give your wellbeing a boost.
That and much more. We'll also be sharing this week's hits and misses from the Be Clever With Your Cash community. It's all in episode 399 of Cash Chats.
So Andy, it's been a few weeks since we did this together. What has been going on?
Yeah, it has been a while, hasn't it? Money-wise, a couple of things. For anyone in London, a quick shout out. You need to book into the monthly India Club at Gunpowder. My wife and I, we were in London at the end of June. We managed to go. And not only was it really, really tasty, it was just the most amazing value. It was £25 for 6 courses of Indian food. It was really, really, really good. So I'll give a shout out for that. If you're in Londoners, do check that one out. Also, a little reminder for everyone, they've got Halifax reward accounts because this happened to me just this week. You might remember I speak about this account a lot. I do talk about this one a lot. But this is one where you can get a monthly reward. It could be a fiver, it could be a cinema ticket. But you have to meet certain criteria. You do that every month and you get this. But you have to renew it every 12 months. And if you don't, then you're not getting that reward. Now, fortunately, I'd put a reminder in my calendar that this was going to due in July, and it popped up just a few days ago. So I went into my Halifax app and chose what reward I wanted and how I was going to do it for the next 12 months. So I've done that because I've got 3 of these accounts. Remember that little hack that I've shared with you guys before as well? You can have 3 of these. I've got different reminders throughout the year because I open them at different dates. So if you haven't done that, then do find out when you need to renew this and put those reminders in, because otherwise you will be missing out. What about you? How have you been the last few weeks?
Very good, thank you. I am in holiday mode. Well, not yet, actually, but I have booked a holiday for October and I've got really canny with booking the hotel. So basically, I've decided to split my week in Greece into 2. And for the last 2 nights, me and my boyfriend are treating ourselves to like a fancy hotel. It's not like extreme fancy, but we've booked a room with a private pool.
Ooh.
I know. So doing this, I was just like, amazing. And then I remembered I could get 10% 10% discount with Vitality, my health insurance, which I managed to book and saved about 30 quid, which is great. Love that for me. And now I'm sort of looking at other stuff for the rest of the stay. But I'm also looking at cashback sites. So I'm trying to be canny around which booking platform to use, which cashback site to use, and whether I can stack it with the Vitality discount for the rest of the stay. But I also know that with hotels, sometimes if you are happy to take the risk, the later you leave it, the better deal that you can get. Because, the hotels want to book the rooms and it kind of, basically they want to kind of give deals so they can book it close to the date. So I'm not in a hurry. It's in October, but I'm keeping my eye on things. Another thing I've done this week is rein in some debts. Call me debt collector. These are personal debts. I mean, I haven't really. Basically, my friend owed me a bit of money from a spa trip we took a few months ago. It's not a lot of money. It's about 50 quid. And when we kind of said goodbye, I, gave him my bank details. And I was like, no hurry, whatever. But it has been a few months now and I haven't forgotten it, but I didn't want to keep nagging. But I did mention it because I'm seeing her this weekend and she has paid it. So woo, £50 in my bank account. My mum also, as an engagement present, she was like, I want to treat you to 2 weeks trial at the David Lloyd Club. And I was like, okay,
Nice.
thank you. You book it with your boyfriend and I'll give you the money when I see you. And I was like, okay, cool, thank you. So it was £20 for 2 weeks, which isn't actually that cheap. My mum loved it because she was like, she went to all the classes. I think she must have spent all day there doing Zumba, I don't know, jazzercise or whatever she was doing. But I did it. And again, it's like, because it was like my mum's suggestion and I didn't want to chase her for the money. It just felt a bit weird. It's like, it's only £40 for both of us. It was a kind of suggested gift, but didn't really know how to approach it. But she gave me the money at the weekend.
That's good.
But I find this whole thing really interesting, like, the lending and the borrowing between friends, because I try to steer clear of it. Sometimes it does come up, but it's the approach to getting the money back and how long to wait. does it depend on the sum? Does it depend on the event? Does it depend on the friend? Which I find a little bit sometimes awkward to navigate. But I'd be really keen to hear what the listeners, what your approach is to those kind of situations.
Yeah, and you've got to remember to do it as well, haven't you? I mean, I was out at the pub the other night and I got the pizzas and I forgot. They said, "Oh, we will sort it out later," and I've actually forgotten to do that. So you have now reminded me that I need to send them a message. Just like they'll pay, they've got no problem paying, but I need to give them my bank details for them to do it. So as easy things can slip over
Mhm.
time. Yeah.
Definitely. I'm the kind of person who, like, if I owe someone the money, I wanna pay it. I don't wanna be chased,
No.
like, I wanna pay it back immediately. But anyway, on to the news. So there has been some big news recently after weeks of build-up. I'm not talking about the election just yet. I'm actually talking about the England football team's victory on Wednesday. I mean, I'm one of those people who swore they'd never get sucked in, but here we are, obsessed. But the win has made things a bit more expensive for fans. So, Andy, what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, it was that's actually I was watching the football at the pub when I got the pizzas. It's so many people are like you. If they're not already into it, they really get into it now, and understandably, in a final, I know this is the second one in a just short period, but people want to watch it live. A lot of people, I mean, everyone would love to do it, but some people are actually going to try and do it. They want to get to Germany for that final this Sunday, and no one's going to expect it to be cheap, right? It's a final. It's going to be expensive. You're traveling late notice. It's going to be expensive. But just quite how much it's going to cost potentially is really quite astronomical. And a number of stories have popped up just today talking about this. The one from The Guardian is titled, "It's going to cost £20,000." And it kind of outlines some of those different costs. Tickets, although most of the official tickets have sold out, they're on the resale markets. Of course they are. And there's always a markup there. Talking about prices, they're about 2.5 grand. Sure, there'll be even more than that the closer we get to the final and the quality of the seat. But that is obviously a lot of money just to be in the stadium. But you got to get there, right? And this was interesting as well. In this article, they showed that Ryanair and EasyJet, all their tickets have already sold out from across the UK to Berlin. They've already gone, but they were still available on EasyJet on Thursday morning. The cost of this ticket that you could have got, and someone obviously paid for it because it's now sold out with EasyJet, £918 for the seat, and that's EasyJet, right? So that's before you even had your luggage. But it is absolutely huge. And then obviously you get to Berlin, you've got to get somewhere to stay. And that obviously I'm sure will be exactly the same thing where people hiking up those prices by huge, huge, huge margins. And I think, the issue here I've got is that, companies obviously want to make a profit, right? That's why they exist on the whole. But there's a difference between having, making some money, making a profit, and blatant profiteering, which this absolutely is. That Ryanair, so the EasyJet flight, if you fly exact same flight a week later, will cost you 167 quid. There's no reason for it to jump up to close to £1,000, other than to try and take money off people who are really desperate to experience this football match. And what's the result of that? Either the super rich who don't care because they've got all this money, doesn't mean anything to them, they're going to go, so they get to experience it, or people are going to get into debt, potentially really massive debts, 20 grand for one night. Yeah, it's a big night, hope we win, but that's still a huge amount of money to be spending. And then, what are you going to do after that? If you haven't got the cash, that's going to be more than 20k. That's going to get higher and higher and higher with all those interest payments. So, yeah, I mean, it's exciting, but this sort of thing, when I see these kind of stories, it does sort of sadden me.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't even think if you left now, you'd be able to walk and swim it, if you want to save money. So, yeah, it's a nightmare. I mean, surge pricing, it happens all the time. It's a really real thing, I was actually chatting to my cousins at the football, and yeah, I've been sucked in, as I said, and now I wanna get like a little kit, some merch for Sunday, and I was like, "I just want like a really trashy like England boob tube or something," and we were like, "Oh, where can we find it?" And, probably be sold out, or if we get it online, we'll probably have to pay 50 quid, or there's like a little shop which sells like loads of suitcases and sunglasses in Brighton. They'll probably be charging more, and I'm like, "Yeah, maybe I'll just make it myself." But with kind of events. So I remember looking at accommodation for Edinburgh Fringe Festival in August, and you see the accommodation absolutely soar in price. Eurovision Liverpool a couple of years ago, there were headlines saying people are going to pay 82% more for accommodation. There was a house listed for £8,000 a night, and the cheapest place to stay on booking.com was £1,000 a night during that time. So it happens all the time, and it's not right.
No, sadly, it's the same with the Taylor Swift whole phenomenon. Everything around that, whether it's the tickets or the flights or the hotels as well. Sadly, if people are willing to pay this, people will charge it, and they'll keep pushing it up, pushing it and pushing it until people don't go. But it will exclude so many people from experiencing all these different things. One thing that we might obviously get from this match, if we win, and no one wants to jinx it, but there is rumours that new PM Keir Starmer might give us a bank holiday. So that'd be something to look forward to if it happens. Which brings us on to the other really, really big story. The reason why we didn't do one of these episodes last week, the general election. There's no point in us talking about the money news because everything was just dominating to find out what the results were. And we now know, obviously, that as expected, Labour did win. They won on a landslide, and they have started to do things. I'm sure you're watching this or listening to this now, and you're like, so what are they going to do, Andy? What does it mean for our money? Well, we don't know. Like when you and I spoke through all the different manifesto promises a few weeks ago, we outlined a few things. It was relatively vague. There wasn't a huge amount of detail here or there. But at the moment, really all we know is there isn't much money. So there's certain things that they promised, anything else they want to, even those things and anything else they want to do. It really going to come down to exactly what is the state of the finances right now. And I think that's really what Rachel Reeves, who's the first female chancellor, which is fantastic, she and her team, they will be looking into. And then probably in September, we're going to have the first budget, and they'll kind of break down, I guess, some of those kind of first policies that we're going to see. I mean, they have said, we do know that they say in terms of tax, because obviously if there isn't much money, you've got to find some money. They did say in their manifesto, and they've said it a few times, that they don't want to increase tax for working people. And that specifically, they were talking about things like income tax, national insurance, and VAT. That potentially means that any other kind of tax is up for grabs. I've seen articles speculating about things this week, but it's just speculation. It's just people trying to basically clickbait, to get people to click on stuff, talking about, oh, our ISA is going to be taxed, or will they get rid of the personal savings allowance? I mean, you never know, but also maybe not, because there's plenty of other places they can look first of all. So there's no point in us sort of going through all these things right now, other than to say, look, there's changes coming, right? Things will change, and we'll just keep you across it whenever these things come along and let you know what it means for your money.
Yeah, I've also seen headlines around the plans to close the inheritance tax loophole to stop non-doms from transferring overseas assets to an excluded property trust, and removing minimum wage bans so all adults are entitled to the same rate, and obviously the controversial plan to make private schools pay VAT. But yeah, as you said, it's all still unknown. Anything can happen, and yeah, we'll keep you updated. But what has been proven in the next story in a study is that there is a significant link between saving and better well-being, including having better sleep and life satisfaction. So I was actually talking about this yesterday on some regional radio stations. This is a report from Bristol University with Yorkshire Building Society. And what they've looked in is this link between, savings and well-being. And what they found was it's not about the amount saved, which I think people can often get quite focused on when we talk about saving. We often feel, I'll feel better if I have a big sum in the bank, or I'll feel terrible if I don't have enough in the bank. But this is saying it's irrelevant. It's not about the balance. It's about the habit. So no matter how small, it's about the regular habit of saving that is having this impact on your well-being. And in fact, there's a bigger jump in this positive impact for people who start to save after not saving, more so than in people who already save and just save a bit more. So this has nothing to do with saving loads or earning loads of money or having loads of money. In fact, the study has shown that low-income regular savers enjoy similar levels of life satisfaction to non-savers on much higher incomes. And it's also, they were looking at the impact of achieving goals. So, the positive impact on long-term saving. And they found that 82% of individuals who were regular savers became homeowners compared to 15% of non-savers over 10 years. And they basically said that savers are 10 times more likely than non-savers to become homeowners. So this is really interesting. There's a much bigger impact on young people and people on low incomes in terms of the positive impact. So I think, it's really interesting. When I was chatting yesterday to some radio stations, the discussion was, yeah, kind of challenging what people think about saving. It was also quite a positive message. But, I totally understand we've had a pandemic, we've had a cost of living crisis, we've had an energy crisis, and people are wondering how they're even going to put aside that small sum. And we were discussing all the options. So, for people on low incomes or certain benefits, that is the Help to Save scheme, which gives
Yeah.
you 50p per £1 saved. So that's like a 50% return. And if you are struggling, kind of talking to your providers, seeing if you're getting all the benefits that you're entitled to. But the message seems to be just, it doesn't matter how much you save, just start with whatever you can.
Yeah, I think that sounds really, really interesting and really sort of. Hopefully, if people aren't doing it, this is another extra bit of motivation for them to get going. Because not just will you, by putting money aside, having some cash there for emergencies if it come along, but yeah, you'll sleep better, you'll be happier. That's all good news for people to get involved in. And don't forget as well, we have got over at becleverwithyourcash.com/savings the best buy tables where myself, Amelia, and the rest of the team every day we're updating it with the best rates, including some accounts which are designed for regular saving. You put in small amounts of money, some of them with decent rates, literally have the most you can put in is 50 quid a month. But again, it's getting into that habit, giving you a decent return for doing that. And over time, that will add up. So do check out those accounts. So you're doing both these things. You're saving, but you're also getting the best rate. Now, something else that I think for a lot of people makes them feel good when it comes to money is getting a good deal, getting a bargain. And that's certainly something that I get excited about. Anything from yellow stickers at the supermarket. I love those bargains. Always get really a hit of dopamine when I get those cheap chicken, or to other bigger savings on either it's flights or other things and pieces. I love doing this. I'm sure a lot of people are the same. And these people are probably looking forward to something that's happening next week, which is Amazon Prime Day. It's over 2 days, which is a bit weird, Tuesday and Wednesday. And if you have Amazon Prime membership, then this is sold as one of the biggest sales of the year. Exclusive discounts. You can't just go to Amazon and get them. You have to be a member. And that exclusivity and this promise of all these extra big savings is going to draw a lot of people in. Now, I want to talk about whether you should be excited about this and whether you actually can get a deal or a saving from it. Now, a few years ago, my Metro column that's coming out next Monday, I was actually writing about this topic as well. So I had a quick look at my old Amazon history, and I did in 2017, 2018, and 2019 take advantage of the Prime Day sales. And I bought a number of things, box sets, vodka, and a handheld luggage weight thing, which has actually been really, really useful on holiday. All sorts of things. Those are groceries, all these things that I've picked up, lampshades. So I bought all these things, and me being me, I bought them at really good prices. I was happy with those purchases. Only one of them was like an impulse spend, and that was the luggage thing. But as I said, that's been really useful. So I'm really happy with that experience back then. But that was 2019. So why have I not, in the last 4 and now 5 years this year, why have I not carried on? If it was so good then, why have I not carried on taking advantage of this sale? And there's a few things here. One of them, the first one, is that I don't think the deals are as good as they used to be. I'm not saying you can't get a decent offer and things reduced to decent prices, but potentially at the lowest prices out there. You absolutely might find those things on Prime Day. But it feels to me that more and more over the years, it's been filled with like a bit more filler, basically. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of deals on there. And if you just go in to Amazon on any day, but particularly on things like Prime Day or Black Friday, and you just start scrolling through these deals, I mean, you can get sucked into and lost into those things. And most of it is junk. Most of it is absolute nonsense. So there'll be one or two things maybe which are good prices, but the rest of it, it's just a bit of junk, and possibly not even that different in price to like a random Thursday in, I don't know, March. Do you know what I mean? This idea this is the time to get it isn't necessarily so true anymore. So that's the first part of why I'm not so keen on it. You really, a lot of it is just rubbish. But the second part is what I used to love about Prime back in the day was those extra savings you'd get as a Prime member on top. So you might have to do something. Maybe you'd have to take out a trial of the music or a credit card with them, or put some money into the gift vouchers, but you'd get extra money back on that, extra things to top up. And these are far, far fewer. There's not as many of these around anymore, but they were the ones that really helped me bring that price down, which is partly why a lot of those things I bought, like vodka and groceries, is because it was bringing them down to really, really, really low prices. So they're big things to bear in mind, right? But the other thing that also has kind of changed since then is, long-term listeners and viewers might remember this, but I actually ditched Amazon for a whole year in 2020. And I've kind of carried on since then as well. But I thought it'd be a challenge in that year of going without Amazon. But it wasn't. It was actually really easy. And the thing that made it easy was ditching Amazon Prime. That wasn't actually saving me money. It wasn't helping me get the best deals. Yeah, okay, the odd special offer here or there, like I mentioned, the vouchers or whatever. But actually, having Prime meant I didn't shop around. It meant I didn't look and see if other retailers were selling things for the same price. I didn't compare prices, just assuming Amazon was going to be one of the best places because I had Prime. And actually, in the vast majority of cases, it wasn't that. And then when you've got it as well, it's so easy just to go straight to Amazon, and those things I mentioned before, those short-term deals, those flash deals, lightning deals they call them, all those things designed to make you buy something now. Prime's a big part of that. Encouraging you to think, oh, I may as well get it. I'll get this. I'll get that. So overall, I'm not a big fan of it anymore. I'm not saying, as I said before, you can't get deals with it, and you shouldn't. If you've got things you need to buy and you've got Prime membership, have a look and see if you can get them at a decent price. But don't just assume that Amazon Prime Day, because it's happening, because they tell you these are massive sales, that they are going to save you a huge amount of cash.
Mm-hmm. No, agreed. I'm really cynical about these big shopping days anyway. The data usually comes out around like Black Friday and Cyber Monday, where it's like actually you can get it cheaper throughout the year. So yeah, I'm kind of anything where there's too much hype, I retreat. And Amazon in general, I rarely use Amazon, and I took a punt on it recently and got some plants, and one set of plants turned up dead and the other turned up moldy.
That's
What I will
awful.
say, Amazon is really good at refunding.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of the products, I'm just like, this was just a waste of my time. But with these prices, there are kind of ways, as the article points out, to make sure you are getting the deal. Zoe's put in some really nice graphs in the article, which is on becleverwithyourcash.com, around, tracking the prices over the year and comparing what members of our sister site, Smart Money People, whether they've got a bargain or not, and whether they could have got it cheaper in the year. So Camel, great name, is an Amazon price tracker. So you can actually look back on historical pricing data. You can also kind of, see if companies who are selling similar products or the same products are offering price matching services. And I always think with these things, like people get caught up, like, when you see the Black Friday, I don't know if it happens anymore, but I remember the fights in the supermarket in
Yeah,
America.
not so much now. It's more online, isn't it? But yeah, people
Yeah,
carried away because this idea that you're missing out is so much pressure on these sales, isn't it? It's kind of got to get this now because I'll never get it as cheap again. But well, do a fist fight over something you don't really need? Is it taking it a bit far?
totally. And just the whole, the triggering of impulse buying. So,
Yeah,
there are, take a step back, think about whether you need it. Would you buy it if it wasn't on offer? Is it the offer? Yeah, and just don't believe it's a bargain just because it's on sale. Um, which brings me on to my next story. Don't believe something is real just because it's got a celebrity's face on it. This has come from some analysis from Money Saving Expert. They have looked at online scam ads, which are using celebrities to endorse this scam or not. Yeah, kind of illegitimate services. It's based on action fraud data. So action fraud is it's part of the police, and it's where you report online scams to, and it collects the data. And this is the reports between 2022 and 2023. And MSC also asks, readers to write in with their own experiences to collect the data. Um, and they've established the top 20 celebrities used in these adverts. So Martin Lewis is top. His face is on almost a third of these ads. Taylor Swift got almost 22%. Elon Musk almost 14%, but also Adele's been used, Holly Willoughby, Jeremy Clarkson. There's a whole range of these celebrity faces. And what's interesting about the analysis is Martin Lewis was saying, well, he thinks, and it's likely that these criminals have almost got these in-house marketing teams. They've tried and tested the engagement to see which celebrity faces work the best. And they're being used to sell all sorts of dodgy things like cryptocurrency, but not legit at all, investing, retirement planning, and get rich quick schemes. They're also being used for tickets for sold out concerts being sold at discounted prices. So be really careful. It's often on social media. I think it's the classic, like, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. And also, Martin Lewis never does ads. So if you see anything with his face on, it's not legitimate. And yeah, I don't know why Taylor Swift would be selling cryptocurrency either. So just be really mindful. Yeah, and make sure that you're, rather than doing a bank transfer, with these kind of things, I mean, avoid anyway, but always use a credit card or a debit card for more protection.
Yeah, it's interesting, that list. I mean, James Martin was in that list. I'm like, that's really random. But obviously, like I say, it's working. For some people are falling for James Martin, whether he's talking about cryptocurrency or something else, I don't know. But obviously not him, the fake him. But yeah, it's interesting. But I guess what I want to add to this as well is, like, don't forget, this isn't just like these big TV celebrities. And we've spoken about this before. There's also, it's rife on on social media for content creators and influencers or anyone on there, where these scam accounts. And particularly, I think you need to be careful. Well, in health somewhere you need to be particularly healthy, but also around this sort of personal finance as well, because they're doing similar things here. They are impersonating people. They've done it for me. I've had clone accounts based on me, or clone accounts of the official Be Clever With Your Cash ones. And they'll create this Instagram page that looks identical. They scrape it, basically. It looks exactly the same, but the handle will have a slightly different spelling or a full stop in the middle of it or whatever it might be. But if you don't look at it, if you just glance, it looks legit. And then they'll slide into your DMs and they'll be like, oh, thanks for following me. Start up a little bit of a chat. And then before long, is doing those same things. They're saying, oh, I've got this secret investment thing that I don't want to tell everyone about, but I'll tell you about, or whatever it might be. And it isn't legit. And it's not just us. I've seen it from other content creators that I know, that I'm friends with. It's a real problem. And it's very hard to get TikTok or Instagram to take these accounts down. So sadly, we do what we can to prevent this happening or get them taken down. But if we can't, sadly, a lot of it is going to be on you. So if it does, as you said, Amelia, if something sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. But even if you're not sure and you want to check a little bit more about these things, you think, well, maybe it is legit, then do your due diligence. Don't just go by this message that's been in DMs or this adverts on Facebook, whatever it is. Research it elsewhere and go to places you can trust and see if there's anything on there. Established places. Don't just Google it, because there could be a fake site out there as well. Go to places and see if that's there, particularly if it's me saying something and this fake account, Martin Lewis saying it on a fake advert. Well, come to our websites, because that's where, if we're talking about something, it'll be there as well. And you can also, particularly again for us, because we've got a website. Not all content creators have their own websites, but you can go to becleveryourcash.com, because that's where you'll find the official handles. You'll be able to click through to the proper accounts. That's where you'll be able to just double check, is at Be Clever With Your Cash the handle, which it is, or the one who's contacted you at Be Clever With Your Cash official, which is a fake one, but it says official, so it sounds official, right? So, just do check these things and be really careful of anything's on there. But yeah, it's rife. It's getting worse and worse and worse. Next story I want to share with you has been really big on the news right now. This is one of the sort of breaking story, and this is around water bills. Now, we know that the water companies are in a mess. They're losing money. They're managing them awfully. They're cutting corners. Our rivers are full of raw sewage. It is not a good situation. It was one of those things that you think we would have heard more about in the election, but no one really talked about it. But it is a right mess, right? And we as punters, we don't want this to sort of carry on. We want it to be sorted. The problem is, if we want it sorted, then it looks like we're going to be the ones who are going to pay for it. This incompetence that's happened in management, the privatization of the industry over the years, we're going to have to shell out if we want things sorted. And this could be quite sizable. The water companies have put in pitches to the regulator of how much they each would want to increase our bills over the years to basically clean up our rivers and fix our issues and work towards kind of potential future water shortage things that would come in sort of decades to come. And it does vary depending on where you live. And some of these asks were astronomical, right? Really, really big. Well, Ofwat has just come back and said, okay, you can do this, but we're going to cap it on average by £19 a year over 5 years. So it could be a little bit less than that. It could be a lot more than that, but on average, £19 a year. So that would mean next April, when your bills go up, they'll go up by 19 quid, which is quite a lot. That could be around sort of 20% increase. So really, really way above inflation. But then next year, it'd be another 19 quid. And then the year after that, keep doing that. So cumulatively, think that's not too much, 19 quid a year in the scheme of things. That is going to be compounding. £19, but then next year it's that £19 gone up, buffs another 19, and the year after that another 19 on top. Average household then, that's £435 more you spend in 5 years. It's a huge amount of money. I think it's going to stick at that going on. I mean, this isn't set in stone. The water companies come back quite angry about this, and obviously the government's only days into power, so there could be more news on that, but that's what we're looking at right now.
Yeah, I mean, the headline, £19, it was like £19, which kind of grabbed me, and that doesn't sound too bad, but over
No.
time, it's really going to add up. And, in the article, it said Southern Water customers are expected to pay 44% more over 5 years, which is really significant. And, not only are water companies failing to keep our water clean, they're polluting our rivers, and they're now being put into special measures, but 2 million people at the moment can't afford water bills. And,
Mad.
more support needs to be done. And as prices rise, this is only going to get worse. But yeah. And
Yeah. There's not much you can do either, is it? The bills come through. You can't switch your water provider because, well, you could, but you have to move across the country to do that. I mean, probably not one to cover now. Maybe we'll cover it in more detail another time. But obviously, if you are not on a water meter right now, moving to a water meter can sometimes save you some money. It really depends how many people are in the household and the size of the house. I have got an article over at becleveryourcash.com on that, so do check that out. And yeah, maybe it's something we should cover on the pod in more detail at some point soon.
Mhm. Another story of a company possibly making things worse for some customers. Nationwide is getting rid of its passbooks from February next year. So this is a big story because it's another story about modernization in the banking industry and potentially leaving people behind. So it's wanting to modernize its passbooks. It says just 2% of customers use this old version, which is around 120,000 customers. So 2% sounds tiny, but 120,000 customers is still quite a few. This story came from a tip from a concerned Nationwide employee, and they gave this to This Is Money, who's reported on it. They said that if you are a customer who wants to keep using the passbook, you'll get a savings wallet instead. And this will contain a Nationwide card, which can only be used in a branch. And it will also have space to keep your printed mini statements, which sounds like a bit of a faff, really. They're bringing in temporary staff to manage the changes, and older and vulnerable customers will be supported through this time. But the issue here, as I said, is people who have relied on these for whatever reason, often elderly people, often vulnerable people, they want to go to speak to someone in the branch, they want to go to the counter, and they manage their money through the passbook. They like seeing the transactions in the passbook. This is what they've probably done for years. They find it easier to understand that way, in terms of managing their money. And there is this real risk that, well, who's asked them? They've said that they're bringing staff in to manage these changes and to support customers, but n who's made this decision? I always find this with banks when they are propelling themselves forward to modernity. Where have they done the kind of the back work, the
Yeah.
asking the questions, the actual investigation into how customers are gonna be affected? Because I feel like rarely they do.
Yeah, and it's happening quite fast. I mean, it's to end of March next year. I think that's when the passbooks are going to be gone. And I think, okay, that's 9 months away, but the people who are mainly going to be impacted, as you say, are likely to be some more elderly and vulnerable people, and that change is quite a big change that's coming through for them. And we know that even going to printed statements and a card isn't going to an app, but it still could be quite a big transition for people. Quick one, I just want to give people a heads up on this one. We have covered it in more detail over on the website if you want to read more, but this is around Nectar points and using them at eBay. At the moment, it's one of the few places you can do this. You can use your your Nectar points at Sainsbury's, Argos brands like Tu and Habitat, but also at eBay. And if you've got points and you don't want to use them at the supermarket, then this was a really good option for you. Sadly, this is going to end on the 31st of August. That's your last chance to convert any Nectar points you've got into vouchers to spend at eBay. Once you've converted them into a voucher, they'll be valid for 12 months, so you can extend the lifetime where you can use them a little bit. But yeah, that is the deadline you've got to. And also in that time, you'll stop earning points as you go along as well with eBay. And interestingly, this comes around the sort of same amount of time as eBay saying they're not going to take American Express cards as payment in the middle of August. So big changes coming along there. And again, more detail over on the website.
Brill. And as promised, we're going to finish off with some of the hits and misses that you guys have shared this week. So I've got one from Chandran, who posted on the Facebook page, who said, I was quite lucky to stumble upon a Quidco flash sale last night offering Surfshark VPN at 99% cashback. Essentially, it cost me about £21, VAT plus 1% of the price, for a plan that includes VPN, antivirus, and incognito for the next 25 months. That's an amazing deal. I mean, Amazon, listen up. That's the kind of deal people want. These flash sales are brilliant when they come around, and we do try and publish them as soon as we can when we come across them. But you have got to be really quick. 99% is amazing. It's basically free. Yeah, so well done for spotting that deal. I've been quite good with Cheddar recently, just in terms of the cashback stuff. Like, I was in Marks and Spencer, and before I paid for anything, I bought a prepaid card, like literally before I got to the counter, got my 5% cash back, and paid there and then. I was a bit worried because my phone had 1% battery, and I was like, oh my God, it's going to happen. But I managed to do it. So yeah, keep an eye on, the ways that you can make your money work for you through those through the cashback schemes. And yeah, definitely keep an eye on the flash sales.
I've got a little hack. It's a grey hack, shall we say, for things like that. So they mentioned there about it was 99% off, but that didn't include VAT. Some people have said they live in Jersey on the form when they signed up to these VPNs, so there is no VAT charge, so they get the full amount back. So it probably is the full amount. But again, it's a grey area. I wouldn't necessarily suggest you should do it. I'm just saying what maybe some people have done to save a bit more money on similar VPN deals. A couple more comments over in the Facebook group. Remember, if you're not a member, please do join us there. becleverwithyourcash.com/community is the URL, and it's a great place to ask questions. But also, every week, we want to hear what you're up to as well, so we can shout it out in this podcast. But always some stuff around bank switching successes. Jennifer shared that she got her £200 bonus from Nationwide. That has been £575 in total in switching bonuses since April 2023. Thank you for all your guides and everything you do. So that's so glad to hear that we are helping you make things easier to understand, but also making some money, which is lovely to hear. Doesn't always work though. Luke shared that he missed out on that £200 because he was waiting for direct debits to set up in advance in the dummy account before the switch comes through. And that's often one of the problems with these. They can come and go quite quickly. So I have got a whole article and also a video looking at how to switch bank like a pro. So do check that out, because that's one of the things where I talk about having these things already active. You've got a dummy account. You've already got some direct debits, which aren't costing you money because they're sending money to yourself. It's there, and you can just do it straight away when an offer comes along. And very quickly, we also had Stuart shared some problems he'd had with Kahoot. I talk about Kahoot often when we give the savings roundups. He applied for the savings account, and Santander said because of fraud, wouldn't give a full reason why. He thinks maybe there was something slightly different in the address details that he put in to where he has Santander accounts are, because Kahoot is part of Santander. They said they're going to close all of his accounts, which is really worrying. And he can go to a branch to prove his identity, but the branch closed 10 years ago. So he's in this position now where it's like, well, they're going to close my accounts down. So instead, rather than fight it, he's going to go, right, screw this, I'm switching. And he's going to move all his Santander and Kahoot products over to Chase instead. And this is the final, I think we're going to keep coming back to this quite a lot in the podcasts, of security needing to be there to prevent scammers. We've spoken about it. We're going to speak more about the scammers stealing phones on the pod again very soon. Needing security to prevent people taking advantage of stuff, but at the same time balancing it with people just trying to live their life and do things legitimately. And something's got to give there at some point. So an interesting one there. So thanks for sharing that, Stuart.
Well, that's it for this week. So thank you all for joining us. If you want to read the articles we've spoken about today, you can find them at becleverwithyourcash.com or in the show notes.
quick heads up. It's been a while since I last did one, but I'm going to do a Ask Andy Q&A, a live session on YouTube and Instagram this coming Monday night at 7 p.m. So please do join me there. But we'll also be back with another show on Tuesday, which will be episode 400 of Cash Chats. So we shall see you then.
Bye.